Hey there, horror fans. Are you always on the lookout for spine-tingling, hair-raising tales to keep you up at night? If so, you've come to the right place. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to bringing you the scariest, most bone-chilling horror stories around. By subscribing to our channel, you'll gain access to a world of frights and terrors that will leave you with goosebumps for days. From classic ghost stories to modern urban legends, we've got it all covered. And the best part? By subscribing, you'll never miss a single terrifying tale. We upload new videos regularly, so you can always get your horror fix whenever you need it. So, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button now and join our community of horror lovers. Just be sure to leave the lights on. It was 2:30 in the night. The road was completely deserted. The smoke coming from a factory next to the road looked eerily beautiful in the street lights. I was in the middle of the road when a pitch-black cat with a white pigeon in its mouth sped past me. I remembered my mother's words that if a black cat crosses the road, there must be a problem. I walked towards the same path where the cat had gone. This road was much quieter than before. From the beginning I had a strange horror of such deserted places. I had been walking for half an hour but still I did not see that cat anywhere. I stopped for a while for the sake of cheapness, then my eyes fell on the side of the road. I felt like there was something there. I carefully adjusted my glasses and saw that there was a child sitting there. I looked at the clock and it was 3:30 in the night. I wondered what the hell this kid was doing here. Surely the poor thing must be in trouble, or must have lost its way and came here. I should help him, thinking that I walked towards this child. "Son, what are you doing sitting here alone? Can I help you with something?" I asked this child. As soon as the child turned back and saw me, I woke up with a jolt. Even in winter I was completely drenched in sweat. While taking a long breath I wiped the sweat from my face, picked up a glass of water from the table near the bed and drank it down. Looking at the time on the clock in the light of the lamp, it was 3:30. Why do I always have such strange nightmares? I thought to myself, and then the dream started playing again in my mind. When the child looked back at me, his mouth was full of blood and in his hand was the same black cat that he had eaten half. "Sir, this cat used to tease me a lot." The child said this and started coming to me. Thankfully my eyes were opened. After that I could not sleep again. The whole night was spent in strange thoughts. At 8 o'clock in the morning I left for the office without having breakfast. All the way I kept thinking about the dream of last night. I decided that I should have a psychiatrist check this out. As soon as I reached the office, I called for all the pending files from the last 1 week to keep myself busy. Mug of coffee in hand, I was reading a file carefully when my assistant entered the room with permission. "Sir, here are some more files you requested." "Come on, okay, you put them on the table, I will see," I replied without looking at Natasha. I flipped the file page. Natasha placed the files on the table. "Good, Natasha." When I remembered something, I called Natasha, then I looked at the child standing next to her, who was the same child whom I had seen in my dream last night. My speech was left unfinished and the coffee mug kept falling from my hand. I was looking at that child in a state of intense fear. I felt like he was laughing at me. Before I say anything, Natasha said, "Sir, this is my nephew. His parents died in an accident couple of years ago, so he lives with me. Maybe it's just my imagination, or because I'm constantly thinking about that dream, this baby looks like the baby in that dream." Thinking this, I normalized myself, overcoming my fear. "Sir, you had something to say?" Natasha asked me. "Who? No. No, then. You can go." I was completely confused. As soon as they left, I started taking deep breaths. What the hell is happening to me? Why does this child look like this dream child? I started talking to myself. Maybe I'm delusional. No, I remember very well that the child in the dream was exactly like that. The door of my office opened and an employee entered and said, "Sir, it's time for lunch. I have put your food." "No, I won't eat today, just bring me a cup of coffee." After that no office work was done despite my efforts, and by evening I drank 4 cups of coffee. When I came out of my room to go home at 5 o'clock, the same child was sitting with Natasha. I will not come to the office for a few days, you will send all the files to my home by Matthew. I said to Natasha while looking at this child. Oh John, what did you do? The child suddenly broke the neck of the toy while playing with it. And this used to annoy me so much, the kid replied to Natasha looking at me, and I hurried away in terror. This is not a coincidence, this child must have something to do with my dream, otherwise the same shape, the same sentence. No, it's not my illusion, there must be some problem. I thought anxiously as I stepped out of the elevator, and instead of going home, I went straight to a psychiatrist and told him the whole incident in full detail. There is nothing to panic about it, sometimes it happens due to overwork, lack of sleep, or not eating on time, or eating less, and you are doing all this. I will prescribe some medicines. Use this, God willing, you will be fine. The doctor said after listening to my words. And prescribed the medicine. I returned home with the medicine, and after having a good meal I slept early after taking the medicine as per the doctor's instructions. Today, out of the ordinary, I fell asleep immediately as soon as I lay down, otherwise it would have taken 1.5 to 2 hours. I was in a deep sleep, I felt something noise. I jumped up from my deep sleep when I heard a loud noise in my ears. I was in the same state of sleep when the main door of my flat started ringing loudly again. I lit the lamp and looked at the time on the clock. A wave of fear ran through my body as it read 3:30. I immediately remembered my dream. The door once again began to bang more loudly. No, this can't be a coincidence, there must be a problem, I thought to myself. But the doctor gave full assurance that it was only happening due to routine disturbance. Consoling the doctor's words, I got up from my place and went out to open the door. When I opened the door, Natasha and the same baby John were standing outside. In John's hand was the same toy with which he had broken the head in the office that evening, but now that toy was perfectly fine with the head attached. It was raining heavily outside, lightning flashed frequently and the clouds were thundering. Sir, we have come to your door in great distress, please help us, we have no help but you. Natasha started speaking while crying. Well, you came inside, you are already very wet due to the rain, I made them sit inside and went to get towels for them so that they don't get sick due to the cold. A little while after handing the towel, I looked at John, he was constantly smiling at me, I was feeling strangely uncomfortable with his smile. I will bring something for you people to eat. After saying this, I stood up and suddenly my eyes fell on Natasha's legs. Natasha's legs were just as twisted and scary as a witch's. Controlling my fear with great difficulty, I went to my room on the pretext of kitchen and locked the door from inside. Picking up the mobile, dialed the number of the police. My call was answered on the third ring and I quickly controlled my heartbeat and said with great difficulty, some strange creature has come to my house. Whose legs are upside down and terrible. When I finished my speech, hearing the answer from the front, the mobile fell from my hands and I went to the bed scared. Instead of the police, the voice of Natasha was on the phone saying, I am a witch, sir. That's when I felt someone was right behind me. I looked back trembling and saw the same dreamy child John standing behind me. His mouth was full of blood and the other half of the same black cat was in his hand. Sir, it used to annoy me, John repeated the same dreamy phrase again. Blood was flowing from the mouth of the child, and now he again started eating the remaining part of the black cat with satisfaction, and while eating he suddenly moved the cat towards me and said, you eat too, it's very tasty meat. Seeing this scene, I felt like I was the next victim of this child. Seeing my death in front of me, I was about to get down and run to save my life when my leg hit something and I fell face down on the floor. I couldn't even make a sound out of fear, it felt like someone was strangling me. Natasha was crawling out from under the bed very slowly with the support of both her hands, her fingernails were very big. As soon as she came out, seeing her face, I felt as if my soul was slowly leaving my body, causing me great pain and I was unable to say anything even if I wanted to. I was afraid that the arteries in my brain would burst in the next few moments. When I looked at John, he was bleeding from the mouth while eating the cat and was smiling at me. Sir, you are afraid of us, Natasha said, coming closer to me. This time Natasha's voice did not have the delicacy that was in Natasha's a while ago. It felt as if a very scary creature had come inside Natasha, whose voice was equally scary. Natasha's face was now like the weeks-old corpse of a 100-year-old woman, big red eyes bulging out with blood, black hands with sharp nails covered in large blood stains. And the legs were huge and upside down, which were slowly coming closer to me. Along with Natasha, John had also reached my head, bleeding from his mouth. Seeing this scene, I felt like I was taking my last breath. My eyes were about to close when the door of my room opened with a loud bang. It was my neighbor Peter, whom I felt a magnetic force on seeing, and I got up and hid behind him and started shouting, "For God's sake, Peter, save me from them. I don't want to die, save me." "Why are you so scared?" Peter asked. Peter's complacency in such a terrible problem was beyond my understanding. Why he was not afraid. No one was present in the room. I ran to the bed and there they were. I could swear the witch and the witch were still here. I shouted to Peter, who must have thought I was crazy to see me in such a state. At that moment, darkness fell before my eyes and I fell on the bed, losing my balance. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital room. I tried to get up but my head felt very heavy. I touched my head and it was bandaged and my hands were covered with a drip. "How are you feeling now?" A doctor entered the room. "What happened to me and how about this bandage?" I asked the doctor. "You were brought here by your friend Peter. Today is the third day here. You are in 3 days. That is, I was unconscious for 3 days," I asked the doctor in surprise. "Maybe you fell down from your bed sometime during the night while you were sleeping, or somehow you got a little head injury. Actually, this happens to a person when he is suffering from severe depression. Someone is suffering from great anxiety. You are in dire need of rest," the doctor said. I knew that if I told the doctor the real problem, he would not believe me. "Now you rest, I will go round again in the night," said the doctor and left. Is it really all my imagination? Am I really suffering from severe depression, or am I crazy? No, it's nothing like that. I'm not crazy. Once again my mind was gripped by whispers and I didn't even know when the door opened and a nurse entered the room. "Sir, how are you doing now?" the nurse said while checking the drip, and picked up the injection and started filling it facing the nearby table. While looking around in my thoughts, my heart sank when my eyes fell on the nurse's feet. Her legs were upside down and very scary. "What made you think you would survive?" The same scary and terrifying sound came. The nurse straightened up and looked at me, and Natasha was standing in front of me in her same terrible form, and in her hand was a huge bloody dagger. Natasha started walking towards me smiling. "If I want to live, I have to fight this witch," dare I thought for the first time, and that's when Natasha attacked me with that dagger. I quickly fell off the bed to save myself. The granola fell out of my hand and blood started to flow. Without caring about my hand, I quickly got up and picked up the scissors lying on the nearby table, and before the witch could attack me again, I attacked her with full force. The scissors hit her neck where blood started flowing rapidly. The witch was now lying on the floor below. Suddenly the door of the room opened and the doctor entered. I looked at the doctor and then again at the witch, and I couldn't believe my eyes, because there was no longer the witch, but the nurse's bloody body. The bloody scissors were in my hand. Just then the doctor entered the room. When I looked at the witch, I couldn't believe my eyes, because instead of the witch, there was the nurse's blood-soaked corpse. "Doctor, I did not kill her. This she was a witch, not a nurse. I had come to kill." I gave the doctor an explanation as soon as I saw him, which was of course futile. The doctor called the security personnel, who took me under control thinking I was crazy, and the doctor quickly injected me with which my eyes went dark and I fainted. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in a different room than before. I was still drowsy. I tried to get up but I couldn't move. I thought it might be due to weakness, but when I thought about it, both my hands and feet were tied very tightly to both sides of the stretcher. The door of the room opened and a few police officers entered along with the same doctor. The doctor and an officer of the police had a conversation and everyone else went out except the officer. "Officer, I didn't kill that nurse. You might think I'm crazy, but she was not a nurse, but a witch who wanted to kill me," She also works in my office. All will be revealed. I explained everything to the policeman, trying to keep myself calm, but still my confusion was clearly visible. The policeman kept asking me various questions for about couple of hours and then left. I had a little hope that now, as soon as Natasha is arrested, the whole situation will be solved and I will get rid of this mental, psychological, and physical torture. About an hour and a half later, the police officer came again. "Well, how long was Natasha working in the office as your personal assistant?" asked the police officer. "It has been almost more than 6 months since she worked in my office and I told you all the details just a while ago. Why are you asking again?" "And where is Natasha?" I asked the police officer worriedly. "Are you crazy yourself or trying to make us crazy?" the officer yelled at me. This time his tone was very harsh. What do you mean, officer?" "I mean, no girl named Natasha works in your office and your personal assistant seat is also vacant for last 6 months. Not only that, but according to your office staff, you have been acting very strangely for the past several years, have been found talking to yourself in your office room, talking to yourself daily at the assistant's desk. And drug pills have also been found in your office and home." I was listening to the words of the police officer while I could not open my mouth, and, in some corner of my mind, the thought was growing that maybe this policeman is playing some kind of dirty joke with me, or I am having a dream. But at that time, I was shocked when the policeman showed me the CCTV video in which I was standing next to Natasha's table and talking to Natasha every day, but now there was no sign of Natasha's name anywhere in the video. After that, for the next several minutes, the policeman kept telling me, I don't know what, but my mind was completely numb. I couldn't understand anything the policeman was saying. Once again everything became blurred in front of my eyes, and in no time there was darkness everywhere. "You will be produced in court today," the doctor told me while checking my reports. "I have seen some such cases before. I am giving you a sincere advice that whatever your lawyer asks you in the court, you have to give the same answers." The doctor explained to me how to handle the whole situation in full detail. "So do you want me to admit in court that I am insane?" I asked the doctor helplessly. "You are being tried for murder. If you don't do all this, you will get 25 or 30 years in prison, but this way the court will send you to an insane asylum, where at least you will be 1,000 times better than prison. Will be able to live." "But doctor, I am not crazy at all. I see all this. I have such terrible dreams. I see strange things," I told the doctor, crying. "It's time for you to go to court." A few police officers entered the room. Both my hands and feet tied to a stretcher were untied, and I was handcuffed and led out of the hospital room and into a police car. An hour after reaching the court, the proceedings of my case started. I gave all the answers as per my lawyer's instructions. My case went on like this for about a month and a half, and finally, considering me a mental patient, the court issued orders to commit me to an insane asylum. Here I soon adapted myself to the environment, making the same doctor my personal doctor, who comes to check me regularly every week. With his constant treatment, my physical condition was now much better than before. Now I had less nightmares. My routine was much improved. There was time to eat and drink, and even made friends with a few sane types of lunatics like myself who were not insane, but due to the irony of the situation and the selfishness of the people, were in the asylum at the time. Time just flew by, and before I knew it 5 years had passed and only 2 weeks of my treatment were left. The court had already ordered my release on completion of treatment, citing my insanity as the cause of my murder. During this 5-year period I had learned a lot in my life. Based on my observations and experiences, I had also completed a book to save people like me from such difficulties, which with my release, it was to be published. If I were alive today, all the credit would go to Dr. James, whose encouragement and constant guidance helped me through this tough time with great patience. "You will forget us as soon as you go out," my friends said as they bid me farewell. Today was the day of my departure from hospital, where I was happy to go. There was also the sadness of these few friends, because only I could understand their pain. I promised myself that as soon as I left hospital, for the right of all these people, I will fight for their freedom. After meeting the entire staff of the hospital, I walked towards the stairs to go. Reaching the stairs, I once again looked back at all the people and tears began to flow, unable to control my emotions. I quickly turned towards the stairs and saw some familiar faces looking down through the front glass. I turned again and looked at the glass. Although I was on the 4th floor, it did not take me even 2 seconds to recognize the faces standing outside. Suddenly my facial expression changed and my face turned red with anger and my blood started vomiting. Natasha and her nephew John were standing outside. As soon as I looked at them, they were looking at me as if they were waiting for me. As soon as I saw them, all the scenes of the destruction of the last 5 years of my life started playing in front of me. The accused person who pushed me from my life full of happiness to the mire of torment was standing in front of me. Unable to control my anger, I immediately ran towards the stairs. My eyes were bleeding after seeing Natasha. I was running down the stairs of the 2nd floor. Suddenly my foot slipped and I slipped very badly, breaking the glass in front of the stairs. Fell down. I was standing safely, but a dead body was buried in the foundations of the building under construction. One of them had penetrated into his eyes, one into his skull, and 5 of them had joined the rest of his body. This body was mine, and beside it stood my soul, freed from life forever and ever, with no more humanity in it. Freed from the confines of time and space, my wandering soul was now only destined for destruction. Now I am everywhere all the time. When you are hearing to this painful episode of my life, I will be there with you, somewhere around you.